Josh Gibson. They have their new rookie, Caleb Bates-Diop, and the other rookie they drafted in the first round. These guys are still around, and that can fill out the roster. Memphis is kind of in rebuilding, and they get a rebuilding piece with Andrew Wiggins. He has a pretty big contract, but so do Gasol, so does Conley. So it doesn't look like the Memphis Grizzlies are actually losing a lot of cap space here. And the Spurs do it just so they can get Karl Anthony Towns, and maybe they can be the team that kind of turns this Towns around. What do you think?
Okay, well, I think I do like it for Memphis in the sense that they do get a young player for those two guys. They replace Jeff Teague with Mike Conley, who's a younger player, maybe not as good, but a younger player, less injury riddled. So I like this move for Memphis. They get, again, Andrew Wiggins, who's a nice young player, Jeff Teague. And now the other thing I like about this deal is that this takes them out of win now mode, and this really could preserve their draft pick from Boston, at least for this year. So, because I think this trade, they would lose some, they would not win as many games next year as they might having Marcus Gasol and Mike Conley on that team. So I think I do like this trade for Memphis. Again, they take the Dieng contract, who's got about $48 million over 3 years. Chandler Parsons, I believe, has either 2 or 3 years remaining, at least 2. I believe it actually is 3. So they're not gaining any cap space over the next couple of years, really. So I like this trade for Memphis. Again, Minnesota, like you said, is in win now mode. Now, they are getting much older in this deal with Gasol, Conley, and Aldridge. So I think I would like this move for them for the next season. I don't know how much I would like this trade for them in the future. Again, I'm not sure how much they want to keep Andrew Wiggins. So getting rid of Dieng's contract is good. Replacing Conley with Teague for them. I mean, I think, again, win now mode, so that might help them. Getting rid of Wiggins' contract. I think they would have to get a few more draft picks because of the fact that they're giving up a young player like Karl Anthony Towns. Now, again, for the Spurs, obviously, if the Spurs could pull this off, it would be absolutely fantastic for them. But I think the Spurs would definitely have to give up some future draft picks and probably a DeJounte Murray, not even a Lonnie Walker, probably a DeJounte Murray, I would say, to Minnesota because of the fact that Minnesota is giving up Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, the problem is there that Minnesota's taking in the most salary here because they ended up, if they didn't stretch Cole Aldridge, this move would have been more possible. Because I don't actually think Minnesota would want to give up Justin Patton. Justin Patton was the rookie from last year. He didn't play much, if he didn't play at all, because
he was hurt last year. Yeah, Justin Patton. He's not even. I wouldn't even call him. I mean, he's a filler in this deal. I don't think that
he was a filler. He's the only reason I added him is so he can make this work. Because this would be only like Tom Thibodeau wants to win now. I think this team would be one of the teams that would give Golden State a hard time because Golden State has struggled against big men, right? Memphis has always played well when healthy against Golden State. It would give you if they're still healthy, it'd give them 2 lockdown defenders with Conley and Butler, right? And then you have 2 big guys who can both rebound, can both score. Marc Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, would actually fit pretty well because Marc Gasol is a little bit of a perimeter player. He likes to pass off the top of the key, and Aldridge would play more down low, and I think they would give Golden State some trouble. It would be an interesting team to watch. They'd only be good for a year or two. So yes, you're right. The Spurs would have to give up some picks, which I think they'd be willing to do if they were able to get Karl Anthony Towns.
I think they definitely would do that. Yeah.
I don't think Tibbs is really happy with Karl Anthony Towns, and it seems like Karl Anthony Towns, I don't know how much he's into actually getting better. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, just his potential alone, and even his defensive potential alone, it just nets him so much trade value that, at least, and then the other reason why I think Minnesota needs to begin at least the DeJounte Murray in this deal is because of the fact that Conley is coming off that injury, and Thibodeau he has a habit of running his players to a bone, and you can't really run these old guys down to the bone like that. So they would need more of a bench here. DeJounte Murray backing up Mike Conley, especially with his injury in this past season, would be necessary.
Well, maybe it'd be like a DeJounte Murray and Tyus Jones swap.
There definitely have to be some type of swap, something figured out financially, which I'm sure. These NBA teams, they know how to make this stuff work.
Yeah,
and so these guys are all experts at it. They know how to make it work. They've done some trades that we never thought would be possible, but they've made it possible. So really this thing would be able to make work. But yeah, the Spurs would definitely have to give up Murray and probably a few more picks just because of the fact that creating Karl Anthony Towns for Aldridge is a haul for them, an extreme haul.
Yeah. I will say this: I do think Karl Anthony Towns might be one of those players because I think he's on his last year of his rookie contract. It's like he might just end up taking next year as well and then leaving because I don't see him really staying in Minnesota. A lot of these players are all about movement now. They're all about being in charge of their own destiny. So I would see Karl Anthony Towns actually being one of those players. Like, yeah, I'll take a little pay cut and then I'll see what the offers are in 2020 free agency or 2021. Maybe I can go play for the Bulls, better market, get some money there.
Yeah, so what he's referring to is Karl Anthony Towns accepting the qualifying offer in 2019 and playing throughout 2019 and becoming an unrestricted free agent in 2020 when a lot of teams should have cap space. So I think the more likely scenario is him maybe taking a 3-year deal from Minnesota when he becomes a free agent. When he becomes a restricted free agent next year, taking a 3-year deal, a little shorter than the 4 or 5 years that they could offer him, and then weighing his options, taking the max for that deal, and then weighing his options in 2022. I believe that would be when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Or, like we just said, him trying to discuss a trade with trying to force his way out of Minnesota, which out of all the coaches, Tom Thibodeau would probably be the most likely to do, would really be get that value for him and try to figure out the best trade package. So I think an ideal situation for him would be LA with the Lakers. The Lakers could offer, and I think especially for Karl Anthony Towns, they would have to offer at least 2 of the 3, and I believe Lonzo Ball would have to be involved as well as Brandon Ingram. I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota demanded Kyle Kuzma in that deal as well, and the Lakers agreed to it because of the fact that Karl Anthony Towns is a transcendent player, and none of Ball, Ingram, and Kuzma have proven that yet. I don't think Kuzma will ever be that player. I think Kuzma will be a prolific scorer in the league, but I don't think he'll ever even be an all-star. So really, I think trying to make that work would work out for both teams. Minnesota would manage to get young while still getting a lot of young assets. Really, I think this might be a move that keeps Jimmy Butler there because of the fact that they gained 3 great young assets. Now, obviously, getting Brandon Ingram and Jimmy Butler there, Jimmy Butler would slide back down to shooting guard, making Andrew Wiggins expandable, which is fine because Andrew Wiggins is another player that probably does not belong with that team. So at least if they're trying to win now. So I think this would be a good trade. The Lakers get their transcendent player, get to keep him around for a while, have him play alongside LeBron James and whoever else they could sign in free agency next year. So I think this would be a wonderful move for both teams involved. What do you feel?
Well, from what I'm hearing, it seems like that'd be a haul. The Lakers are not really willing to give up at least Ingram. From what I'm hearing, they're high on Ingram, at least with the Kawhi saga. I think I understand Karl Anthony Towns is a little bit younger than Kawhi, but I think Kawhi is a way better player. And I think you're going to get less for Karl Anthony Towns than Kawhi. I know people are high on Karl Anthony Towns, but he's also been in the league for 3 years now, and he hasn't really lived up to his talent. And I think after 3 years, that starts worrying some people, right? He's not putting in all that effort that other players are. He's not getting better defensively. He's got one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the league, and he hasn't even improved in that area. And that to me, that's a warning sign. Okay, and I think you value Karl Anthony Towns a little bit higher than I do. So I don't know if this would be if the Lakers are not willing to give up all that package for Kawhi, I don't see them being willing to give it up for Minnesota. And the Spurs are not even asking for Lonzo Ball.
Well, yeah, the Spurs don't want Lonzo Ball, and I think it's just a different situation. They have a point guard there that they really like, while Minnesota could use a younger point guard. They have Jeff Teague there, but they could use a younger point guard. I agree that Kawhi's a better player, but I'm arguing over who has more trade value. And probably right now in the league, no player has more trade value outside of Antetokounmpo and Anthony Davis than Karl Anthony Towns because of his age, because of this defensive potential. And really, I think Tom Thibodeau is too much of an old-school coach, and I think the reason, for example, why Steve Kerr is so successful in the NBA is because of the fact that he's really a millennials type of coach, where he he lets the players really do what they do, and he steps in when needed. But the players are making a lot of those decisions and really running his team. I think it's just more of a old school coach with a millennial type of player, which just does not mesh together right now. And I think they need to find him a better coach to play alongside, where he might not ever reach his full defensive potential, but he might reach it higher than what he's doing now. And again, I think with the trade value, he's got more years. He is he's still a restricted free agent. So him really coming, he's got most likely more guaranteed years. I don't see him accepting the qualifier offer next year and leaving the money on the table, especially if he were to be traded to a different coach. So really, you have much more control over him. That he's younger and he doesn't have injury history like Kawhi Leonard right now. So I think just argument more in terms of trade value. And again, I think that would be the maximum type of package the Lakers would offer. I mean, they obviously wouldn't start with that, but I think they would at least have to offer a Lonzo Ball and maybe a Lonzo Ball and a Brandon Ingram, just because of the fact that those two players have much more potential than Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma might have been a better player next year, but they could offer, based off potential, those two players might be able to offer the Timberwolves a lot more than Kyle Kuzma.
I mean, if you're Minnesota, you like that deal because then you can kind of take your assets. You can take Jeff Teague and try to see if you can get something from Orlando, right? Can you take on one of their bad contracts and get one of their young guys? You can try to see what you can get for Andrew Wiggins. I mean, that's a pretty hard to move contract. But, like a team maybe like Memphis or someone can take a swing at it. So you can get some young assets and start rebuilding. That would obviously mean that Tom Thibodeau's got to go. Tom Thibodeau's a win-now guy. So I don't see him making this move to develop players. I don't think he likes developing players. He's showed that in Chicago. He keeps bringing back Chicago guys to the Timberwolves. So I think that deal works only if Tom Thibodeau gets let go, which I actually foresee happening pretty soon. One more deal I had, and this is we don't have to spend too much time talking about it. This would be Karl Anthony Towns being traded to the Indiana Pacers for Miles Turner, TJ Leaf, and Indiana would have to include some picks. I don't think they have their 2019 first-round pick, but they would have to include some picks to make this deal work. This would also be another move where Tibbs just wants somebody who might respond better. Miles Turner is a little bit of a better player defensively. At least he's been in games. So that's the only reason why he would make this move. I know you're not getting all that same value for Karl Anthony Towns, but you're getting something in return, and you're trying to do this to convince Jimmy to stay.
Yeah, and I think, Miles Turner's a nice player, probably even a good player. He's got a lot of potential as well. Indiana's really high on him. TJ Leaf, solid. What is he, a rookie now? Is he a second-year player?
Going to be a second-year player.
A second-year player, okay, so maybe second or third year right now. Probably, again, a nice young player. You're really trading for him based off potential. And like you said, maybe pick up some other, I don't know if they had a draft pick this year, but whoever they drafted this year, add him in. Maybe instead of Leaf, add in DeMontis Sabonis for this deal, like you said, picks. I like it for Indy. I'm sure Minnesota could probably, obviously I like Indy. Indy gets a great player here, so I really would like it for Indy. And pair him alongside Oladipo. But Minnesota could probably make a better deal. They could probably make a worse deal. So really it would depend on who Tom Thibodeau likes and wants there and who other teams are willing to give up as well. So it would be like you said, a trade that could work if it needs to happen and nothing else happens there. So now really jumping in, kind of mixing things up, we're going to try to figure out ways on how to get Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler on the same team. So really combining this, one that's been tossed around is Karl Anthony Towns for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving obviously going to Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns going to Boston. Love this move for Boston. Paired that guy, Karl Anthony Towns alongside Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and the slew of other prospects they have there, the slew of other young players, I should say, not prospects, and draft picks, and obviously Al Horford, Gordon Hayward still there. So Boston, that's a great move. I think, again, Minnesota, same thing. They get a win-now type of player. Would have to figure out a way to trade Jeff Teague and probably even try to trade Andrew Wiggins, maybe for a DeMar DeRozan if it works.
I think in order for it to make this work, you'd have to maybe it'd be like Karl Anthony Towns and Jeff Teague for Terry Rozier. Well, maybe not.
Probably not Terry Rozier, but Kyrie Irving and maybe a Marcus Morris. So yeah, you're right. You could include Jeff Teague in this deal for Boston.